walking through a ghost town. Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. Yeah, we're lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page, but we still read that book, and we still run that race. Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out, till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, we'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine, whether you are watching us live on Facebook, live on YouTube, or maybe you're watching us later on in the day on YouTube or wherever it is that you enjoy Coffee and Sports, the morning show. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, is that pinstripes you got on today, Mo?
Yeah, I'm just breaking out all the gear.
Mo's got to be like, remember I wore that 2 weeks ago. We're good.
Yeah, this is proof that I wear it, right? This is all I'm doing. I'm just wearing a little bit of everything.
He's just going to show the video. Look at that. It was 3 days ago. I wore that right there. See? Mo, welcome in on a Friday. How is your Friday morning going?
I'm doing great. Feel good Friday. Lots of sports to talk about. Like I said, never had a bad day.
Mo, let's get to this. It was Thursday yesterday. It was Thursday, and there was a preseason. I said it. I'll say it again. There was a preseason WNBA game in Indiana. Okay, this was a preseason WNBA game that was actually rescheduled semi last minute, because once the time was announced for Game 3 between the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks, the preseason WNBA game took a back seat to that. So they had to actually move it up a day. And despite all of that, Mo, 13,000 plus people attended this game in Indiana. 13,000 people attended a preseason WNBA basketball game. You know why. You know what they were there for. You know who they were there to see. 13,000+. Mo, the Indiana Fever averaged just over 4,000 last season for their regular season home games. And they went 13,000+ for a preseason WNBA game that was last minute rescheduled due to a conflict with the NBA. I said it yesterday, Mo, and I'll say it again. She moves the needle, and this is why. Whenever your question is anything along the lines of why does Caitlin Clark get this? I don't care what this is. Fill in the blank. This is why.
Yeah, and I actually watched the game, and I thought she played well. I thought she was solid. Her shot was a little off, but her playmaking was on point. She competed hard on defense. I don't think anybody that came to see her play came away disappointed at all. I thought she played fine. If anything, it probably upped the ante till they're probably more amped to see her play again. I actually think the 13,000, I don't think that's going to be a fluke. I think that's going to become respectfully, I think it's going to become more the norm because she moves the needle, like you said. And I like I said, I can't say how great it is for the league. And I enjoyed watching her play. She's going to do for me, like we talked about yesterday, what Tiger does for us with golf. I'm going to watch even more WNBA because of her. And because of her, I'll be introduced to other stars who I'll watch in the WNBA.
And Mo, it was electric. Again, preseason WNBA basketball. That is what we are talking about to kick off the show this morning. It was electric there yesterday from the time she was announced to every time she checked into the game. If you just stood there with your back to the wall and you had no concept of what was happening behind you, it erupted. every time she came into the game, every time that she scored. And to your point, I don't think it's going to dip. I don't think it's peaked and we're going to see it just go downhill from here. I think we're just getting started.
Agreed.
So props to the Fever for making the most of this so far. Props to the WNBA for capitalizing on this so far. And I'm excited to see where it ends up. Speaking of the NBA, there was NBA playoff action last night, Mo, and this is why this had a little bit of a Chris and Mo pick NFL football games feel to it, where we're so confident, Mo. We sit up here and we're so confident on what we are going to see happen, and then the games happen, and we're like, well, we told you not to bet us. We told you not to bet what we say. We just sit up here and we talk to each other. Don't take it to the bank. Let's start with the one that I didn't think we were going to see. The Cleveland Cavaliers not only beat the Boston Celtics, but they came out in the second half with their pants on fire, and they put a stomping on the Boston Celtics in the second half of that game. And really, if you go back to the first half of that game, because even though it was tied at half, Mo, at one point, there was an 18 or 15 point swing just in the first quarter alone. There was at one point they were down almost double digits in the first quarter to Boston, and they finished that first quarter up by 6. So you come out of that first quarter and you're like, that was a huge swing. And then Boston ties it up going into half, and then Cleveland came out of the half and just beat the britches off of them in the third and fourth quarters. Mo, I know that we always joke with Boston being like, well, they're going to give up one somewhere. It's Boston. So they're going to give up one somewhere along the way. And maybe that's all this is. Because if you remember last series, it was after game 2 where we said, hey, Miami's in this thing. Could this be the Demons creeping in from the past here? Right. And then Boston locked in and said, knock it off. We're a better team. And they went and they stomped them 3 games in a row. Mo, are you expecting to see the same thing here? Do you think Boston's going to lock in and they're going to go take care of business the next 3 games and punch their ticket to the finals in the Eastern Conference? Or did the Cavaliers find a way to potentially get themselves really back in this series by potentially winning another game moving forward based on what they were able to do last night?
Yeah, I think the Cavs will win another game. I still think the Celtics win the series, but I think the Cavs are going to make it a series. We talked about this yesterday. You asked me what I expected, and I said I expected more of the same, but I hoped for better because I wanted Boston to earn their way to the conference finals. Look, the Celtics, they literally flipped the script, Chris. The Celtics shot 8 for 35 from 3. 8 for 35. The Cavaliers flipped it around. They shot about 46% from 3. Donovan Mitchell was the best player on the floor. That's something I talked about before. He's better than Jaylen Brown. I don't think he has more talented than Tatum, but he's got more dog in him than Tatum, and that's why it's a compelling series. If anybody comes along like Darius Garland or Karis LeVert and gives them any kind of help, and Evan Mobley was excellent last night as well, it could be an interesting series because you can tell me Boston can throw multiple defenders, Jrue Holiday, Derek White, Tatum, Brown at him, but in terms of guarding him on an individual level, none of them can actually stop him.
And then the other game last night was the Thunder and the Mavs. We actually picked the Mavs to even up the series yesterday, and they did that last night. Luka looked better. He's looked kind of hobbled the past couple of games. You question, obviously he's not 100%, but where is he actually? There were still moments last night where it looked like he was in a little bit of pain, but he looked more fluid out there on the courts. And the Mavs did what we thought they were going to do. They even it up, Mo. Do you think this series goes the distance? Or we can get a 6 or 7 game series out of this?
We are. I expect it. And what was interesting to me is Kyrie didn't have a good shooting game. But if you watched how he played, he was terrific with his floor game. 11 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. and he kept the ball moving. The ball constantly kept moving. Big game from PJ Washington, 29 points before he fouled out. Gafford had another good game in the middle. Tim Hardaway came out of nowhere, known to be a streaky shooter, had a big game, gave them 17 big points. I just thought the production they got from their bench, the Luka looking more like Luka, Chris, that was so big for them. To me, the only question about whether this goes 7 or not is Luka's body going to hold up, because I watched the game. Every time I turned around, the guy was on the floor. He's either busting his face on the floor, or he's getting tripped up and somebody's hurting his ankle or his foot or his knee. But I think he's one of those kind of players that he gets really fired up when he gets into it and starts antagonizing fans. Like Luka engages fans, and I think it fires him up. It makes him a better player. So look, OKC is still a young, talented, gifted team, but I believe this is going to go 7.
We got more NBA action tonight. It is the small town, the local grown, backs against the wall. Nobody gives us any calls. The Indiana Pacers are looking to get on the board against the New York Knicks. I mean, Mo, I listened to the Carlisle stuff again, and then you look at what he says, and then you look at the NBA for the last 20 seasons, and you say to yourself, well, what have the Clippers done the last 20 years? LA is a big market, pretty big market, right? What did the Lakers do after Powell and Kobe? There were some dry years in there. I know they got that bubble with LeBron, but there were some lean years in Los Angeles after Powell and Kobe.
I felt it.
Look at what's going on in Chicago. When's the last time they were relevant? Look at what's going on with the Knicks outside of this season. When's the last time they were truly relevant? You know, you want to say, oh, the small market team, and then you look around the league and you're like, what? Well, Denver kind of just is doing a little thing. I don't think Denver is really a huge market. Right. Milwaukee won a chip not too long ago. Is Milwaukee a huge market? So it bothered me more a couple days removed from it, because if you look around the league, there are small market teams that are not only having success, but are actually winning titles in the NBA. And some of the historically big market teams in the NBA haven't been great the last 2 decades. In fact, some of them have been really bad the last 2 decades. So again, you look at those comments and you're like, he was emotional. I get it. But to go so specifically down a path, it bothered me more a couple of days removed. But Mo, is there any chance? Obviously, there's a chance. But do you think the Pacers can get on the board and avoid going down 3-0? Because once they're down 3-0, we're done. Wrap it up. But if they make it 2-1, at least we have the conversation. But what do you think happens with the Knicks and the Pacers?
I know we've given guys like Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo a ton of credit for their Herculean effort, how they've played above and beyond their normal capabilities. They're going to have to do that times 3 or 4 when they get to Indiana. And the biggest reason why is the Knicks bigs keep dropping like flies. OG Anunoby, who's their best big in terms of guarding, matching up with Siakam, he's gone, which means Josh Hart, who's terrific, at 6'4", is going to have to guard Siakam, who's about 6'10". And I automatically, unless Rick Carlisle is not as good a coach as I think he is, they're going to go to Siakam over and over again early. My prediction is they will win game 3. Josh Hart will be in foul trouble early in that game. He has given up size, length. He can't guard Siakam. Pascal Siakam is just too big a guard for him. And they might have to put somebody like Precious Achiuwa in early. He's a bigger body, but I don't think he can guard him either. Like when you start having to go to your 4th or 5th big man, you know what I'm saying? Like for them to win tonight rather, they would need Brunson to have a 40-plus game and Hart and DiVincenzo replicate the 48 points they've been doing. And even then, it's going to be a one-possession game. I actually expect Indiana to win both home games. I think we have a series. I think they're going to take full advantage of the Knicks' lack of size.
Mo, you're calling out playoff Josh. I don't know if that's what you want to be doing right now. Okay, I mean, we'll see. We'll see,
Well,
Mo.
I'm not calling him out. I'm saying playoff Josh is going to be the target tonight. That's all I'm saying.
he's not going to be catching strays. He's going to be catching them head on.
Right. And think about this: if he's got to guard Pascal Siakam head up, that will take away from any rebounding opportunities he's going to have, because he's going to be guarding Siakam straight up. That's a completely different situation for him.
Another completely different situation is what the Nuggets are facing, down 2-0 in their series against the Timberwolves. Mo, unless they have figured out that Minnesota defense, because they thought they had something. We saw their new wrinkle in the first quarter of game 2, and it was a joke. So unless they've legitimately figured out how they're going to attack that Minnesota defense, this is going to be a long game 3 for the Denver Nuggets, because let's be honest, it hasn't really been super competitive since about midway through game 1. Midway through game 1, it was either tied or it was a one-possession game, and then you just saw the defense lock in, and they've been locked in ever since. So unless something drastically changes, I think we're leaning Minnesota, but you would have to imagine, Mo, Denver's not getting swept in the series, right?
You would have to imagine.
You would have to imagine.
But if they don't win tonight, you can reimagine. let me put it that way. That's how big tonight is. Look, the best thing they had, because they've had like multiple days off, that's great for Jamal Murray. So you're going to get whatever the best version of Jamal Murray. You're going to get that tonight. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to explode for 30 or 40, but I think you'll see a better version of Jamal Murray. If they can't unlock Jamal Murray along with Joker, they're going to struggle again to score points. It'll be another game where they score about 90, 95 points. That won't get it. Denver has to play faster. Minnesota, I know people get caught up in Anthony Edwards being athletic and some of the wings they have, but they don't really run a lot. They're opportunistic. They actually walk the ball up and grind you down because they have a lot of bigs who can score, and they use their size, and then they ISO Ant. I think Denver's got to play faster. You've got to unlock not just Murray, but get Porter Jr. some open looks, maybe coming off of pin downs, screen and rolls. And I think his counter for game 2, having Aaron Gordon take a lot of jump shots, which was a horrible counter. I don't even know why he would think that. You want to get Aaron Gordon involved. I know that. I'm with you on that. But it's not through jump shots. You've got to get him out, maybe get him some opportunities in break, get him a lob, let him get some post-up opportunities. Aaron Gordon is about 6'8", 245. He's a big, powerful guy. If he gets a mismatch in the post, let him go in the post and get to work, get to the free throw line. But you don't want to have Aaron Gordon taking 16, 18-foot jump shots. Those are basically long rebounds for Minnesota to get out and run. So I really think that I'm with you. I'm of the opinion that Denver will give their best effort tonight. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I don't think they're going to get destroyed either like they did the other night. And I thought, Mike Greenberg has a habit of being over the top with sayings, right? So he gave now you're finding out the true character. The character of a team isn't when it beats a team that makes the play-in 4 straight, and the character of the team isn't when you beat another team that makes the play-in the NBA Finals. Yeah, I get that, but when you say it like that, you're trying to say like the Nuggets aren't that good, and I would push back on that. I think they're every bit that good. They literally just ran into a buzzsaw, and it happens sometimes. You just run into a buzzsaw. Ask Giannis. He's ran into Miami 2 out of the 3 times he's met Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has handed it to him. So we're not calling Giannis a fluke either. Look, it's a tough matchup, and it's one of those kind of things where you come in and going, yeah, we know Anthony Edwards is nice. He's a star on the rise. Yeah, you thought he was a star on the rise, but the way he's playing now, Chris, he looks like he's arrived and he's not a star. He's a superstar, and maybe they weren't expecting that leap. It's a tough task for Denver going forward, especially when you have that team, Chris, that confident. Man, I want to believe they're going to win tonight. As a fan, I hope they win. Obviously, I picked them to win, so I'd like to look better in my pick. But this is a buzzsaw, so we'll see.
But it's also one of those situations, Mo, where if they get a win tonight, it calms a lot because then you look at it and you say, okay, there it is. That was the formula. Let's go out and even up the series. You don't want to leave the door open for a team like Denver because Denver is going to find a lot of solace and a lot of confidence if they get a win. Once they get a win and they feel like they figure something out against this defense and they figure something out against this team, Minnesota better have a wrinkle on their side and not just rely on the fact that they're just going to be able to grind them out. Because if Denver can adjust, Minnesota is going to have to counterpunch to close this out. This can't be what their punch was great. Their punch was great. But if they can't adjust to a counterpunch, it might get out of hand with the other way pretty quickly. So
that's fair.
I'm very happy with what I've seen from Minnesota. I think that Denver hasn't found an answer to it yet. But if they do, Minnesota has to be able to throw in another wrinkle in there. Otherwise, you're going to see Denver, like the machine they are, just work their way back into the series. And next thing you know, you're going to be like, wow, it's 3-2 Denver? What happened? What happened a week ago when we were like, the sky has fallen and this team's going to get swept? Just be careful. Make sure that you're ready, Minnesota, if they counterpunch.
No, I think you can bring up a valid point because if Denver wins tonight, it doesn't just calm them down. Like you said, they can say, oh, now we know something that we can do. We found something here. Instead of us trying to guard Anthony Edwards head up. By the way, I think they will do this tonight. We're going to blitz him and make him give the ball up, and we'll live with somebody else beating us. If Alexander Walker or Mike Conley can drop 30, then we'll tip our hat and say, man, those guys dropped 30 and they just beat us. But we're not going to let Anthony Edwards play one-on-one.
100%. Mo, yesterday we talked about, we're going to talk about them twice today. Jesus. Yesterday we talked about the Las Vegas Raiders and we talked about the coin toss. Was it a coin toss? Was it not a coin toss? And we dissected the whole situation. And I felt like that should have been it, Mo. I felt like we did a great job yesterday in that segment. We hit it from all angles, and we should never have had to have talked about it again. But the Raiders are the Raiders. So what happened yesterday? The squeaky wheel, head coach Antonio Pierce, comes out to clarify his comments, Mo. And he says two things. He says, one, come on, guys, there was no coin toss. And then the second thing he says was, it was a consensus decision. We all wanted tight end Brock Bowers. My guy, you are lying through your teeth. Then why are you calling people, telling them how much you like them and how it was a coin toss decision? You didn't want Brock Bowers. Mo, do you know who their quarterbacks are right now?
I couldn't point them out in the lineup. I'm being honest.
Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, excuse me. Those are their two quarterbacks. And their GM came out yesterday and said, we're comfortable. We're comfortable with them competing for the starting job this season. And you took a tight end at number 13. 6 quarterbacks were taken before you picked. And you took a tight end that your head coach clearly didn't even want in the first place. But we're good. But we're good here, Mo. Consensus.
Right. I don't believe that for one moment. I think what happened is they got flipped for a loop. I don't think they thought Michael Penix was going to go. They didn't see that. I guarantee you they planned on drafting Michael Penix. Look, I'm not knocking Gardner Minshew. He's made a good career for himself. I think he's one of the better backups in the NFL, but he is a backup quarterback. He is not if he's your starting quarterback, you might be able to ground out an 8-8 or 8-7 season or something of that nature, but you don't have higher aspirations. And if Gardner Minshew is your quarterback, you go out and get a tight end. Like all those quarterbacks that got drafted. And I'm not knocking him. He might end up being one of the greater tight ends in football, but you got to have somebody to throw him the football. You got to have a quarterback to throw them football. So they have talented wide receiver. I get that, but I don't think I've seen Minshew play. He doesn't have one of those strong arms. He's not going to attack you downfield. He's not going to attack you vertical. What Minshew is going to do is dink and dunk his way up the field, and it's not like a secret. Everybody knows that's what he does well. So I don't believe Antonio Pierce if he comes out and says like, no, it wasn't a coin toss. Why'd you call the guy up and say, hey man, we loved you, we really wanted you, but it was out of my. You could have even said it was out of my hands or something of that nature. But like you said, since when do coaches call up guys they don't draft and go, yeah man, we really wanted you, but it was a coin toss. I'm with you. This is the Raiders being the Raiders. Everything we've heard in the last couple of days, that's got Mark Davis's fingerprints all over it. This is Mark Davis going to Antonio Pierce. You need to say something. Because right now it makes me look like an ass. You need to say something and get Raider Nation straight and have people thinking that we know what we're doing here and that we're a cohesive unit and we all believed in the guy we took. Got you. And again, Bowers might turn out to be every bit as good as Travis Kelce. I'm sure they hope that. But you need a quarterback. You need a quarterback. And what they have is a very good backup quarterback that's going to be your starter. Honestly, here's the thing. They just let go of Jimmy G. I'm not the biggest Jimmy G guy, but when he's healthy, Jimmy G's better than Minshew. He is. He's better than Minshew. You let Jimmy G go, so it's not like you upgraded at quarterback. This is Raider Nation under Mark Davis being Raider Nation under Mark Davis.
And Mo, I get it. You didn't anticipate Penix going as early as he did. You said to yourself, of those top 6 quarterbacks on the board, one of them is going to be there at 13.
Right.
We'll just take the one that's there. Maybe you tried to trade up at some point when you saw things going a little askew and you weren't able to do it. But Mo, you didn't take a quarterback the entire draft.
Right.
You didn't even take a project quarterback. You didn't even go after a Spencer Rattler or somebody of that ilk who maybe they weren't going to start year one coming out of college, but maybe they could have gotten to start their second season in the NFL, and that could have been something. No, your draft, you went tight end, you went guard, offensive tackle, corner, linebacker, running back, safety, corner. Your quarterbacks in the room are Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. And you didn't see fit at some point in the draft to take a quarterback just to roll the dice because you're that confident in what you got at the okay, Las Vegas. Okay, you're all right. I'm on board then. You're good. It was a consensus pick. Y'all wanted the tight end at number 13. Fine. We'll believe you. And then I hope he is everything you wish he was going to be, as you have Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew, or maybe both, because I don't know how great your line is either.
Right.
Maybe both will get some playing time this season.
And Chris, we might not find out how good Bowers is because, like I said, the quarterback situation, you can't say, well, Bowers was a bust. Like, Bowers is going to suffer from the same problem the young man in Atlanta, Pitt suffered from, right? He didn't have nobody to throw him the football. So you're going to be like incomplete on Bowers because they don't have a quarterback that can actually attack you vertically. That's a problem.
And by the way, we've seen what Aiden O'Connell is. He's played enough. We've seen it. We know who Gardner Minshew is. But they didn't want to draft a quarterback, Mo. That's good. All right, I'm good. I'm going to stop talking about it. I'm good. We're going to move on. Let's talk wide receivers. We talked about this on Monday. The Miami Dolphins signed Odell Beckham Jr., which in my estimation puts them at least top 3 in the NFL when you were talking about their wide receiver room. But let's actually have the conversation. Let's actually talk about it real quick. So I'm just going to throw some teams at you, okay? And all we're going to do here, Mo, is you're going to go better or worse than the Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
The Miami Dolphins have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Odell Beckham Jr. as their 3. So that's what we're looking at. Those are the 3 that are on the board. Let's start with the Cincinnati Bengals. So, yes, they lose Tyler Boyd, but they still have Chase and they still have T. Higgins. Better or worse than the Miami Dolphins?
Worse, because they like you said, Odell I would have said it would have been close without Odell, right? I think it's fairly close without Odell. Well, Odell puts them over the top because now you have a guy that can make those catches in the red zone, that can attack the football. Odell's not going to get 1,000 yards receiving, but if he gets you 700 or 800 yards and 8 or 9 touchdowns, worth it.
How about the Green Bay Packers? Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and then your three can either be Jaden Reed or Wicks.
Yeah, the Dolphins are better.
All right, let's go with this. This could be interesting. How about the LA Rams? You're going to go Puka Nacua. You're going to go Cooper Kupp. And then you had the emergence of the veteran Demarcus Robinson this season.
That's a good one because of what Puka became. But I don't think Kupp is quite what he was. I think he's still terrific. And Marcus Robinson had a big season, but was that a one-off because Kupp was out? I'm going to say the Dolphins is better.
Philadelphia Eagles, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith.
Love both of those guys.
Couldn't tell you who their third receiver is.
I can't either. That's why I'm going to go.
Quasi, I think it's a Q, some Q name. I don't know. I have no idea.
And because of that, I'm going Dolphins. for that reason, I'm going Dolphins.
How about the 49ers? You got Ayuk, you got Debo, and then you got their first round draft pick, Ricky Pearsall.
So this one is tough, right? Because Debo's used in a unique way. If you look at him as a receiver, look at his receiving numbers, they're not going to match up to obviously Waddle or escapes my mind, Tyreek. His numbers are probably going to be closer to what Odell's numbers are, and that's makes it tough. Now, if you throw in Kittle, but we're just talking wide receivers, I'm going to say the Dolphins is better than theirs as well.
This one could tempt you. How about the Houston Texans? Nico Collins.
Love that.
Tank Dell.
And
then adding Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, I actually think that one could be as good or better. I'm not arguing that because he's a lot of things, but Diggs can catch the ball at all levels. And Tank Dell, he can take the top off. So can Nico. That threesome, yeah, I think they're as good. I don't want to say better, but they're as good.
I'm okay if you put Houston ahead. I like Houston on paper.
It's that good. Yeah,
it is.
It might be the only one. Yeah,
they're also younger. They're also a younger group with their first two. We don't know what Diggs is going to do, but even if Diggs, I mean, let me rephrase this: Diggs can't be your third option. He's not going to do that. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that looks.
And we have to also see if Tank Dell can come back 100% from the injury too, because he had a major injury. But yeah, if he's healthy, that one would be the only one you've named that I could say could be as good or better.
How about the Seattle Seahawks? Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Nah, I'd still go with the Dolphins.
And then there is a lot of love for the Chicago Bears receiving room right now.
Yeah, and on paper, that
DJ Moore,
yep,
Keenan Allen, and then their rookie.
Man, look,
that looks good on paper.
It does on paper. And don't forget, here's the thing though. I don't know what their offensive line is going to be like. And you could have all the skill positions in the world. If your offensive line is trash, your skill positions aren't going to look that good. Your quarterback's going to be under duress. And as talented as he is, I want to remind everybody, this is a rookie quarterback. It's a rookie quarterback. Now, I'm of the belief, and I think you are too, Chris, he's going to have his struggles, but he will be the first Bears quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards. That, I believe, is going to happen. I'm going to still go with the Dolphins because I think he's going to have those rookie highs and lows. So I don't think he's going to have the same kind of rookie year that the young man in Houston had.
And then for the record, it is Devontae Parker, who is now a Philadelphia Eagle. Good for Philly. As a Dolphin fan, I got no love lost for Devontae Parker.
What?
My man can't separate from anything. So, I mean, the one thing I will give Parker credit for is he is a great high ball, high point receiver, but he cannot separate if life depended on it. So, but I will say this though. I will say this. I love Phillies 1 and 2. If you were just going 1-2s, because that's a different conversation. 1-2s
I'm right
and
there.
1 through 3s are a different conversation. 1-2s, Phillies a legitimate top 5. 1-2s, the Bengals are a legitimate top 5.
Yes.
If you're going 1-2s, you could argue the Rams are a legitimate top. You know what I mean? So if you're just going 1-2s, this conversation is completely different, because when you open up that third spot, there are a lot of teams that just don't have a super quality piece in the third spot. They have serviceable pieces, or there's teams that have a great 1-2 and their third is their tight end. And we didn't have that conversation either. So it's a very distinct conversation we're having when you're looking at just the wide receiver room. You're not taking the tight ends into effect. So I understand that. I understand that. But as a Dolphin fan, I like our 1-2 as well. I'm just saying you're putting more talent into that conversation if you're just going 1-2s, because Philly and the Bengals are most certainly right there when you're just going 1-2s. All right, Mo, let's talk a little more NBA here. A report came out yesterday. The Los Angeles Lakers not only plan to re-sign LeBron James, they plan to re-sign LeBron James at any term that he is asking for. The Lakers are making it no secret, Mo. They want LeBron back. They want him to retire as a Laker, and whatever he wants, they are going to give it to him to make it happen. Because if you are the Lakers, you're probably thinking to yourself, what's it going to be at most? 3 years? That's probably what they're thinking. At most, whatever we would have to give up, whatever we would have to give into, at most, we're talking 3 years. It might even be 2. So I don't have any issue with it. The Lakers, they are that team. They want to keep their stars. They did what they had to do to keep Kobe and keep Kobe happy when Kobe was flirting with the idea of leaving, and Chicago was potentially somewhere that he wanted to go. They did what they had to do. The Lakers want their star players. They want their star names. They don't want LeBron going anywhere. I'm not saying this is a playoff team. It could be. They were a play-in team that got to the playoff. I'm not saying it's a championship team, Mo, but it is going to be a team that I think you're going to see LeBron James on. And don't forget, Mo, like we talked about a couple of days ago, they got flexibility now. For the first time in a long time, they have flexibility to do some things, to make some trades, to bring in another star. So you're going to see a better version of this team next year, as long as everyone does what they're supposed to do, which is all the more reason, if you're LeBron James, to want to stay here.
I think when you look at the Lakers, it's no secret that they value stars probably more than any franchise. And they're very old school about how they deal with stars, even when they're aging. I was one of the people who was of the opinion late in Kobe's career, after he had the surgery where he never really was the same player. I'm more cutthroat. I wasn't going to resign him and give him that extension, but Jeanie did, because that's what the Lakers do. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they're wrong in their approach. That's their approach. That's their belief system. Signing LeBron makes sense for 2 reasons. 1, because he's a Mount Rushmore player. 2, he's going to keep you relevant regardless, because he's LeBron James. 3, Jeanie wants people's lasting memory. Think about where LeBron's been. Cleveland, Miami, Cleveland, and now LA. If he signs this extension, he will have been with the Lakers longer than any other franchise he's played for. Jeanie thinks like this. This is the Laker mindset. When LeBron goes in the Hall of Fame, she wants him to go in the Hall of Fame a Laker. That's how their mindset is. That's what she's thinking.
Would he, though? I think he would go in as a Cav.
I do too, bastard. I do too. I do too. Excuse me, everybody out there, but that is exactly what I believe. I know what Jeanie wants. I know that is her mindset. That is her plan. But my gut feeling is, because he's from Cleveland, LeBron's going to go, appreciate everything the Lakers done. Love them. They can retire my jersey and all that stuff in the Raptors, but I'm actually going to go in as a Cav.
And then you got Heat fans being like, "Oh, you didn't win 2 with us."
Well, yeah, for sure. Well, you know what? That's a good point. That's a good point. But I think because he's going to have spent the most time with the Lakers, they might get some real consideration. He might consider it. And who's to say? Again, what if they did with that flexibility put together a strong enough roster around him that he can make a serious run at a title? And he won a 5th title. Jeannie thinks that way too. The value in what he would bring to the franchise would go through the roof. LeBron keeps you on TV. That right? He keeps you on TV and he keeps you in everybody's mouth year round. Even when the Lakers are 9th or 10th in the West, who are you talking about the most? The number 1 seed or LeBron James and the Lakers? You're talking about LeBron James and the Lakers.
Very true. Very true. Mo, the Suns fire Frank Vogel. We're not surprised they fired him, but they did. It's not his fault. I think we all agree this isn't a Frank Vogel issue. They're looking at bringing in the former coach from the Milwaukee Bucks. I think he's a great coach. I think it's a nice move, but I think you're going to be facing the same issues that you were facing with Frank Vogel. You got a nice, capable coach there, and you got a roster construction that isn't the best. So, Mo, I feel like unless Phoenix figures out their roster, it doesn't really matter what coach you're trotting through the building. You're probably going to end up in the same spot. Are you not?
If you bring back that core, you're going to have the same success you had with Vogel. Because Mike Budenholzer, you know what he is? He's a defensive-minded coach. He's going to want to. What he's going to ask for is, can we go out and bring in some guys that are defensive-minded players?
Nah.
Well, you could, but the only way you could is you'd have to trade one of those top 3 guys, right? They're the only assets they have. They don't have no picks. They don't have any assets. Because if you don't break it up and you bring it back, you will get the same result. The idea that no, these guys just need a whole season together and that's going to change. That's not going to change anything. And I want to remind people, not that he's not still a great player. Durant will be 36. What is LeBron, year 21? Durant's going to be year 16 or 17. Like, that wears on you, and you're not quite at some point. You know how this works, Chris. He will hit a wall. Everybody does. LeBron is the all-time great when it comes to avoiding hitting that wall, right? But I think Kevin Durant's already showing some signs of age. If you bring back that team, Brett's on point. He's gonna cry when he asks Bill and Allen to chase guys through. Right, they're not gonna do that. They're not gonna go over the top screen, and they're definitely not gonna run through screens. And I don't believe Frank Vogel should have got fired, but you know how this works. The owner was disappointed. It's a young owner, and he goes, "I spent all that money. I went out and got all these guys. You told me what to do. We did it." The guy who actually should be getting fired is the general manager, James Jones.
Yep.
But what James Jones did is he talked to the owner and he's like, "You're right. Somebody needs to be accountable for this. I went out and got Frank Vogel, all these guys, and he didn't know how to do them. Frank, you're out of here." That's what happened. But the guy that should really get fired was James Jones.
Well, we talked about Pat Bev a little bit earlier in the week. The NBA has decided that it is going to be a 4-game suspension for Pat Bev for his actions with throwing the basketball at the fans and the subsequent interview that he did after that, where he was also, not the best representation of the NBA. So 4 games is what he gets. I thought it was a little light. I thought he was going to be closer to the 8-game mark there, but 4 games for Pat Bev, and okay, it's not going to change anything. Pat Bev will still Pat Bev.
Right, and the 4-game thing, that's nothing. That's nothing. It is nothing. I thought 10 games or something like that to send a message, because he was literally maybe 10 feet away from those people and he hurled the ball. It doesn't matter that he wasn't trying to hit the woman, that you were that reckless to throw the ball to try to hit anybody, and you did it twice. Look, I think Adam Silver's been a really good commissioner, but if he's got a flaw, it's how he means out punishment and discipline. He must be a real softy around the house with his kids and stuff, because he is not tough on crime or anything at all. Like, you do something wrong and he's like, you didn't mean it. I know who you are. You didn't mean it. Think about it. If we go back, remember the first time John Morant got in trouble? He gave him a tap on the wrist.
Yep.
Gave him a tap on the wrist. Morant went to go see somebody over the weekend for therapy and counseling, and next thing you know, he's back playing again. Like that weekend changed him. And then what happened?
He's a new man. He's a new man.
Until he did it again. Look, I'm not saying you want to end guys' careers, but you do want to send messages, because you keep having these incidents happen. After a while, people are going to start looking at the NBA a certain way, right? It's one of those things where you're like, man, they're disrespectful to the fans. They're disrespectful in general, how they approach the game. And these guys, I heard Jalen Williams of the Thunder say something that's so true. He said, why should I ever complain? I get paid millions of dollars to do something that I love. I play basketball. Right. You get millions of dollars to play basketball. And the thing is, what the fans said to Pat Bev, it wasn't a personal thing. They were getting blown off the floor, and she said Cancun, right? To say that, well, their season was over, and maybe he should be so lucky as to be going to Cancun. But that's what set him off.
And Mo, to your point, it actually set up quite nicely here. He's not in the playoffs right now. A suspension wouldn't cost him or his team playoff games. It's going to happen at the beginning of next season.
Right.
Give him 10, send the message, and he just starts his season 10 games later. You're not losing him during crunch time. You're not losing him during a push for the playoffs. Like, it's literally the best time to suspend someone like him, because it's doing the least amount of damage to everybody else around him.
Correct.
Because it's just the first 10 games of the season. But he still went with 4, so be it.
So he's going to go on his podcast and talk all kind of trash, right? Like, yeah, man, they gave me 4 games, but I'm still Pat Bev. And if you throw something at me, guess what? Coming right back at you, or something like that of that nature. Like, if anything, it probably drummed up views for his podcast, right?
Speaking of podcasts, Draymond Green went on his podcast this week, and he was asked if Jalen Brunson is establishing himself as the best point guard in the NBA. And Draymond Green nearly laughed himself out of his chair when he was asked that question. He basically said, no respect to Jalen, but Steph Curry still plays in this league, and we're just going to leave it there. So, Mo, I will toss that over to you. Obviously, he's going to defend his boy Steph, but let's go outside of the Steph Curry conversation, because, Steph is not a young man anymore.
Sure.
Is Jalen Brunson on the verge of being the best point guard in the league?
I think he's on the verge of being one of them. I don't think he's going to be the best point guard, because he's a different kind of point guard, right? He's a shoot first point guard. He's more of a scorer than he is a traditional point guard. And I'm a big Jalen Brunson fan. I have been, going back to when he was playing at Villanova. So I'm a big fan. I think he's what I would call the ultimate overachiever. When he was drafted, there's no way nobody saw this coming. I saw it coming when he was with the Mavs, and Luka got hurt against the Jazz, and Luka was out for 2 games, and everybody thought the Jazz are about to win these 2 games, take over the series. And Brunson was the best player in that series, and they won those games. They won those games without Luka. It's actually was the reason why they ended up winning that series. I was shocked when Dallas lowballed him. I think they really underestimated what he would be. I think that's what it came down to. It underestimated him. So I don't think he's the best point guard. I look at guys like John Morant. Like, John Morant's very similar, right there. He's a different kind of athlete, but you wouldn't call John Morant a traditional point guard. He's a scorer more than he is a point guard. Luka's more of a point guard than the other guys, and he's a ball dominant scorer. I think when you look at these waves of point guard, this current wave, when you look at Luka, John Morant, Jalen Brunson, when you look at De'Aaron Fox, they're shoot first guys. All those guys score. The best of that group, though, if you were going to say who's the best player of that group, it's still Luka. Luka's the best player of that group. Ja is the most eye-dropping guy to watch, but the actual best basketball player in that group is Luka. And let's not forget, SGA plays point guard. I would say SGA is better than Brunson. He's better than De'Aaron Fox. He's better than everybody not named Luka.
Mo, great show on a Friday, sir. Close us out.
Hey, thank you so much for joining Chris and I this morning. If you didn't join us live, maybe you take a lunch break. Make sure you check out the morning show. Check out all the great content that we have at Wire to Wire Network. We are growing, guys, and it's because of your listens, your views, your subs. We appreciate you. Wire to Wire Network.
We'll be back on Monday. We'll break down everything that happened over the weekend in the NBA playoffs, as well as the rest of the sports world. So make sure you are joining us then. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show powered by Wire to